It's chaos. It's a different type of Sunday scary. It's your newest obsession. It's Dirty Driving, a Formula One podcast. Welcome back to another episode of Dirty Driving. We all know that we are in the spring break of the 2023 F1 season. So I thought I would take this opportunity to pick apart the news that Felipe Massa is planning on challenging the legitimacy of the 2008 championship. This is probably the craziest news I've heard out of F1 as of late. Will anything really come of this? Probably not. It would open the floodgates to a whole deluge of faults in F1 championships, the most recent being the 2021 Abu Dhabi drama. What prompted Massa to think about taking legal action? Well, let's get into it. It starts with the 2008 season, one of the most drama-filled seasons of Formula One. Ferrari's Kimi Räikkönen and Felipe Massa ended up taking home the Constructors' Championship, while Lewis Hamilton, who was racing for McLaren at the time, won the Drivers' Championship, beating Felipe Massa by 1 point after his famous pass of Timo Glock on the last corner of the last lap of the last race of the season to secure the 6th place spot that he needed to take the championship off Massa. The 2008 season is also the season in which one of the bigger scandals in F1 occurred. It's called Crashgate. Crashgate is thanks to Nelson Piquet Jr., the brother of Kelly Piquet, Max Verstappen's girlfriend, and the son of Nelson Piquet Sr. At the time, Nelson Piquet Jr. was a Renault driver who was under a lot of pressure from his poor showing at that point in the season. He facilitated a purposeful crash, causing a safety car, which allowed his then teammate Fernando Alonso to take the win in Singapore. During the safety car, Massa's fuel hose got dragged along, requiring a pit lane stop, which dropped him to 13th, while Lewis Hamilton ended the race in 3rd, scooping up the points he needed in the Drivers' Championship battle. The FIA opened an investigation into the crash in 2009 after Piquet Sr., his dad, let it slip that his son had been fired from Renault despite his loyalty. After the 2009 investigation, Renault faced a 2-year ban from F1. Their team boss, Flavio Briatore, was given a lifetime ban, which was reduced to 3 years, and their technical chief at the time, Pat Simmons, was banned. Piquet Jr. has never returned to F1. At the time, Massa called for the Grand Prix to be off record, meaning he would have won the championship. But the rules of the FIA state that after a trophy is handed out, the championship cannot be overturned. So let's jump to now, 15 years later. Bernie Ecclestone recently made comments in an interview with the F1 Insider website about the 2008 Singapore Grand Prix. He claimed that he and the then FIA president, Max Mosley, knew of the situation after the race, but decided not to pursue action in order to protect and quote-unquote save the sport from a huge scandal. He claimed that there was a rule that forbade them to look into the situation further once the FIA awards ceremony took place, like I mentioned earlier, but said that they had enough information and time to investigate the matter, and according to the statutes, we should have canceled the race in Singapore. If the Singapore Grand Prix had been stricken off the record, then points would not have been assigned for that race, meaning Massa would be world champion, not Lewis. These comments made by Bernie have sparked a multitude of emotions for Massa, who feels that he has missed out on the title because of the need to not tarnish the sport. He's made it clear that he's not in it for the financials, he's in it for the justice. He is now investigating whether the title can be overturned, given that Bernie and Max knew before the awards ceremony and chose not to do anything. Massa said, "This is very sad. To know the result of this race was supposed to be canceled, and I would have had a title. In the end, I was the only one who lost the most with this result. So we are going after it to understand all of this." The FIA's own international sporting code does not allow for protests after a race, and any right to request a review expires 14 calendar days after a competition and 4 days prior to the date of that year's FIA prize-giving ceremony. The FIA's judicial system is clear that the highest authority to make any ruling is the Independent International Court of Appeal, and that any persons involved in a championship agree to abide by this. So there's really no alternative courts that Massa could use. This judicial structure within the FIA, of the final call being the ICA, or the International Court of Appeal, was one of the reasons why Mercedes abandoned its challenge over the result of the 2021 Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, where Hamilton lost the title after rules regarding the running of the event were not followed by our least favorite person, F1 race director Michael Masi. The obvious defense of this is that if the Singapore Grand Prix had been stricken off the record, the rest of the season could have played out very differently. In fact, Lewis led the championship by 1 point from Massa before Singapore, just how the season ended. I fully believe that nothing is going to come of this other than Felipe looking like a bad loser and not handling the loss with dignity. I fully believe it should not be overturned. The past is in the past, and if anything should happen, it should have been reprimands for Bernie and Max. But Max is dead, and Bernie no longer holds a role in F1. Bernie would have done his best to have just kept his mouth shut and not mentioned the secret that he's kept for 15 years now. And don't get me wrong, I feel for the guy. To find out after all these years that his really one and only championship attempt could have been a success had it not been for the cover-up of Crashgate, he would have been a champion. Or he could have been a champion. However, the time has come and gone by 15 years for any of this to change, and Lewis Hamilton deserves his first championship.
Thank you so much for listening to another episode of Dirty Driving. Until next time, stay dirty.